It has been a year of contradictions, hectic and slow, quiet and deafening. I had originally intended to release this video in August or September of 2025, but my microphone broke, and it really threw a giant wrench into those plans and shot my motivation to work on videos in the kneecap. However, in that time I have lived a lot of life, and lived it in such a way that this video will mean more than it would have had my microphone not broken. I'm Juliet Necro, and I'm still being true to my own self. In that spirit, let us wind our way into the underworld once again. I started to become dissatisfied with my Void Stranger video even before I finished it. I feel that I focused too much on the puzzle box structure of the game, at the expense of analysis of the narrative it uses that structure to tell. I also feel that my analysis of the story lacked panache. I put way too much emphasis on soy-pointing at the fact that Zero Ranger and Void Stranger have thematic connections, that I got myopic about what it actually means for Void Stranger. I had also not seen a couple of scenes from Void Stranger when I made that video, that are going to be crucial for this one. I even started to disagree with some of the things I said in my initial excitement to produce a video about Void Stranger. Now I've returned from my training arc to take another swing at analyzing what's probably my favorite video game story. Void Stranger frequently echoes Dante's Divine Comedy, and I devoutly hope that Void Stranger will be as influential on video game culture as the comedy was and is on the Italian language. I love it that much. It's like poetry, it rhymes. In the 2 years or so since I dropped that first Void Stranger video, I've become much more full-throatedly a lesbian trans-feminist and even found love. When I initially analyzed the game, I felt like I was missing something, and that's the missing piece. Thus, I'm here to correct the record, as it were, and provide a more interesting critique. We're presuming full spoilers for Void Stranger here, so if you're the bubble-blowing baby type who cares about that kind of thing, or whatever, go play the damn game. You should do so anyway. Also, spoilers for Char's counterattack and the Divine Comedy, I guess? But you've had more than half a millennium to catch up on that one. To ease you back into Void, let me remind you of the very basic setup, in case it's been a while. Lady Grey makes an Orphic trek down into Void to retrieve the lost Princess Lily, but finds it a strange world of arcane rules that must be obeyed, and which stifle free movement, will, and memory. The danger here is to be lost in Void, to be incorporated into it, and to lose your sense of self, becoming a lost soul, an egg. Where before I mainly look at this story literally, let us instead gaze upon the metaphor. In many ways, Void can be understood as a system of coercion, as patriarchy, and becoming voided can be understood as a metaphorical version of the patriarchal bargain. Now let me be your extremely cunty Virgil on this harrowing of lesbian hell. I hope you like Yuri puzzle games for lesbian perverts. Canto Uno, Deal with the Devil. When Grey or Lily picks up Lord Ad's scepter, we're presented with the ominous note that something is wrong. It's only at this point that the player character is bound to the tile-based movement. They're now bound by Void's laws. These laws are not inherent to the universe, they are imposed by a system. As I said, patriarchy is not a metaphysical evil. It is a system that limits women's lives to being secondary to men, being seen as extensions of them or their possessions. It's due to such a system that Grey and Lily are in the Void to begin with. The patriarchal violence of the outside world is what drives them there. The conflict that leads to Lily becoming trapped in Void and Grey going to free her is a question of patriarchal marriage. Lily's father feels a lot of pressure to marry her off. The society he lives in expects him to treat his daughter like a particularly valuable trading card more than a person, something to be given away at his leisure, to have value extracted from her. Whether the king feels this way of his daughter in his heart of hearts, or is only going along with societal pressure, is immaterial. His actions speak for him. Naturally, Lily is expected to sacrifice any ideas she might have had about her own life for the sake of her father's reputation. Grey's original sin is that she becomes an agent of patriarchy, repeatedly urging the princess to marry, to be the casino chip that patriarchy sees her as. Lily has no interest in the patriarchal bargain, preferring instead the idea of running away with Grey, the person she truly loves. So much truth and beauty could have lived if Grey had only listened to her charge instead of being so obstinate. It's this same pressure to make the bargain with patriarchy that Johann exploits. Much like Lily's father, he sees the women as bargaining chips and himself as the real actor on the stage. Johann has made a literal deal with Dis, the system that runs Void, wanting to make the patriarchal bargain for Lily. Grey and Johann strike a deal to essentially trick Lily into marrying Johann, which unbeknownst to Grey furthers his scheme to attain power by making a deal with the Void Lords. Additional hidden dialogue also reveals that Johann takes advantage of Grey sexually in the process of making said deal. I think it's good that Grey kills the fuck out of him later on. Sic semper pater familiis. In the end, Lily is right all along. From the very first conversation between her and Grey that we're privy to, she suggests running off to live together, outside of the pressures that their misogynistic society heaps upon them. Regardless of how the player interprets the love between Lily and Grey, there can be no doubt that it is stifled by patriarchy. It's not even the only such love that Grey squanders by being obsessed with making the patriarchal bargain. When raising Lilith, Grey makes a lot of the same mistakes she made with her mother, as it's implied that she's grooming Lilith to go into Void in her place, just like she groomed her mother to fulfill the role that a princess, or indeed a daughter in general, is supposed to under patriarchy. Outside of that pressure, she encourages a very normative life for Lilith, objecting to the idea of taking a gap year or even getting a non-traditional haircut. She barely even acknowledges that Lilith and Lily are different people, which is one way to interpret her meltdown at Lilith's haircut. There's also the fact that quite simply Grey is the world's biggest lesbo, and yet she still tries to go on at least one date with a man, which she sabotages, because again, huge lesbo. Grey can't really make the patriarchal bargain for herself, for reasons we'll get into later, so she's obsessed with doing it for other women whether they want her to or not. In both cases, it has disastrous consequences, causing the events of Void Stranger Grey, and then causing her to die estranged from her adopted daughter between Void Stranger Grey and Void Stranger Lilith. She could have lived a happy life with either of them, but instead didn't learn her lesson, misguidedly trying to make decisions based on her perception of what's best for them under patriarchy. That is her tragedy. In Void, like under patriarchy, it's all set up to make you succumb to despair and make a bargain with the force controlling the system. In gameplay terms, this translates to eating the orange that Lev gives you, but under patriarchy it is not uncommon for women to sacrifice what would really make them happy in order to avoid precarity or worse. They bargain with the patriarchy. It's not lost on me either that many of those who uphold patriarchy and encourage women to make patriarchal bargains are indeed women themselves, either out of genuine belief that it's what's best for their charge or out of fear. Grey does this to both of her charges, and the Void Lords are themselves tortured by Dis, either for being traitors to its rule or by living in longing without hope, forced to rely on humans to try and open Dis and understand its nature. In the Inferno, Dante places traitors in the very deepest part of hell, Casitas. Cocytus? Cocytus? Whatever. The traitorous Void Lords all meet awful fates, and so too does Grey, but more on a personal level than the body horror that befalls Gore, the exile that Mon endures, or the awesome Vor that Eos experiences. It is a great crime to betray love in the name of perceived safety, and so the game itself is Grey's Cocytus. There is no ending in which she gets to live out a full and happy life with her daughters. Void Stranger Lilith starts after she dies estranged from the younger of her two daughters, with Lilith only getting the chance to forgive a posthumous representation of her. The Dis ending, while giving Grey the chance to see Lily again and reconcile with her, she fades away once the task is done. It's a happier ending, but not a long tale. It was too late. Grey's original sin occurred before she steps foot in Void, and the player gains control of her. Thus is love between women stifled by the systems, by the void of patriarchy. Canto 2. Flowers in Concrete. How many loves between women have been stifled by the systems of coercion that prevent their flourishing? It's a frightening prospect to think about. Misogyny is a chauvinism older than history itself. So many of those lost loves are consigned to oblivion, and many of the younger ones are too. The first example you're likely to come across is the love between Lady Grey and the Queen, Princess Lily's mother. She's already dead when the game starts, so her feelings toward Grey are a bit of a black box. Was it one-sided on Grey's part or mutual? We know, however, that the Queen was married to the King, naturally, and we don't know how she felt about that. Was Grey her true love? It's implied by the Dis ending, but not confirmed. I choose to believe that they truly loved each other, but the obligations of patriarchy interrupted it. It has a resonance with the next two generations of the Queen's descendants. What really tied this theme together for me, and why I had to make another video, was because of Lilith and Ninny. I missed their interaction during my first playthrough on the lead up to my previous video, because I warped past most of hard mode. I was quite simply an impatient baby who was bad at the puzzles, you see. But their story is the skeleton key to this whole game. You can see and feel the love bloom between them on that short series of floors where they're together, and then the creeping realization that their love is doomed. Remember once more that the rules for movement are not innate, they are imposed by Void. If the circumstances were different, if they weren't trapped in the system, their love could have been, but alas. Once more I ask, how many loves were stifled, had wet concrete poured over them, by the rigid immobility of patriarchy. Indeed, more examples of love denied by the system, by Dis, exist within the game itself. Take the example of Lord Ad and Lord Aeus, the first two Void Lords. Ad is the nominal Lord of Void, and Aeus was its judge. Aeus and therefore Tael are fairly obviously based on King Minos in the Divine Comedy. They're both beings with snake lower bodies who sit at the entrance to the second circle and pass judgment on the souls that wind their way down. Aeus spends so long judging sinners that they become curious about sin and eventually commit one. The nature of Aeus' sin remains vague, but your gal Juliet figured out because she's a genius. We know that Ad and Aeus loved each other. We know this for certain. We also know that Dis's punishment for the Void Lords is that they should live in longing with no hope. Yet another commedia moment. I believe that Aeus' sin was to try and deny Dis and truly and openly love Ad, to eschew longing in favor of real hope and love. Ad never wanted to fight, but the war kicked off regardless, probably because Ad was still desperate for answers about Dis. I think it makes sense as a parallel to the relationship between Grey and the Queen, who are deeply connected to Ad and Aeus. Grey literally being Ad in human form, and Aeus taking the form of the Queen in Grey's presence. The dynamic gets repeated by the other Void Lords. Lord Gore and Lord Tan are separated, not really knowing each other's fates but wondering about each other. Lord Mon's kinda doing their own shit, and Lord Lev is feigning death. Aeus is mostly gone and Ad is completely gone, as said before. The one exception is Sif and Bee, who are kind of a special case. Sif is basically an artificial human and has an easier time getting permission to do things from Dis and skirting its rules. And as we'll get into later, the love between Sif and Bee is one of the keys to the puzzle of Dis, albeit unwittingly for the two of them. We can even see an echo of this theme with Despair and Erasure, who makes a cameo from Zero Ranger. Lastly, put a big giant pin in the concept of Lord Lev. You should be seeing the pattern by now. Systems like patriarchy and void strangle love between women. Whether that's by tempting them with the patriarchal bargain or punishing and preventing lesbian love, many are condemned even now to live in longing without hope. You know the drill by now, it's intermission time. And I had a thing that I was gonna do for this intermission, and I'm not doing it anymore because I don't feel like it. And it probably would have eaten up way too much time and not really been that interesting. So instead, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the new season. So I actually started the new season with the last video, the Half-Life one, but I didn't acknowledge it as such in that video. So yes, we are now in Season 4, the season of Fear, Hope, and Love, which sounds melodramatic, but you know what? I'm a pretty melodramatic person, so that's okay. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to say was I wanted to give you the dates of the next season's videos. So I don't even know what all these videos are gonna be yet, but here are the dates of them. So, this video should, if I don't fuck up, go up on May 3rd. Then the next one will be June 11th, the next one July 11th, the one after that August 11th, then September 11th, then October 4th, then November 11th, then December 31st, then January 5th, then February 7th, and then March 7th. So I'm going to really try this time, to get a video out every month. Every year I say that, and then I don't do it, but this year I'm going to do it because I've actually been working pretty consistently on videos instead of just like doing it in these big sporadic bursts of energy, you know? So I'm gonna keep that up. Anyway, your game recommendation for today is Half-Life Paradigm. It is a demo for a forthcoming Half-Life mod called Half-Life Ares, which I'm very excited for. It's Half-Life on Mars for girls. I don't really know if I need to say much more than that. And your movie recommendation for this time is The Handmaiden. It's lesbian, and very appropriate for this video in that regard. So, also, I do have a Ko-Fi on this channel, so if you like the work that I do here, feel free to toss me a couple bucks. It would really help out. Thanks so much. Very short intermission this time because I didn't feel like doing the thing that I was originally going to do. And we're back into it. Let's get back to the video now. Bye-bye. Canto 3. When from the flesh to spirit I ascended, and beauty and virtue were in me increased. Not only do patriarchy and void strangle the love between women, so too do they strangle women's love for themselves. Now in my previous Void Stranger video, I said that Grey and Lilith are trans women, but mostly played it as a gag. However, let's talk about that. Lilith gets bullied for her hair and her voice as a child. Mon makes boner jokes about her, and there's also the fact that her name's fucking Lilith. Do you know any cis women named Lilith? QED. There actually is a pretty compelling read of Lilith as trans-masculine as well, but I'm assuming a trans feminine Lilith because that's how I interpreted it when I played. Gray, despite being somewhat old-fashioned, tolerates Lilith's transition because it makes her a greater reminder of the lost princess. The meltdown over Lilith's haircut comes from Lilith taking more control over her gender presentation, and moving away from the mold of her faraway birth mother. Patriarchy demands that sex not be malleable, because if it is, then its very foundations are a lie. Patriarchy seeks to divide the world into real people with autonomy, and the broodmares attached to them. But if the line between the two is malleable, then the dominion of men as a class has no basis. Why is Gray so obsessed with making the patriarchal bargain for others anyway? Why not do it herself? Aside from the inauspicious date with Dan during Void Stranger Lilith, she's far more concerned with pushing the bargain on her daughters, and there's a good reason for that. Gray is explicitly stated to not have a reproductive system. As feminist author Talia Bott described in her book Trans Rad Femme, women unable to have children are often third-sexed along similar lines to other women, such as trans women, who are unwilling or unable to fulfill what patriarchy regards as their purpose. Gray is so fatally obsessed with making the patriarchal bargain because it's out of reach for her, and it leads to her betrayal, a sin she pays dearly for. Naturally, this is the view of the superstructure, and the people who enforce it often aren't even aware of all of this. They see the artifice of cis-normativity and the patriarchal bargain to be just as natural as the sun's journey across the sky. Just as patriarchy puts both of its thumbs on the scale against transition, demanding that people live in longing without hope, so too does Void expect its victims to abandon hope in favor of despair. We've also got the matter of Aeus. Aeus, as confirmed in one of the EX mode endings, was male back when they were a human scientist. Dr. Lily refers to him as Pretty Boy during their dialogue. There is something karmic about the Void Lord with dominion over lust, having no physical self of their own, changing based on the perception of who's looking. Aeus, through no fault of his own, was doomed to live life in a body foreign to him by the Void Comet, a life where the body conforms to the expectations of others and of the superstructure. Sound familiar? Also, what happens when one forgets their purpose in Void, succumbing to despair and unable to go on? They turn into fucking eggs! That's right. Who's laughing now? I win. To be serious for a moment, love is the most powerful force in the universe, and that includes love for the self. Call me an AGP all you want, but it's true. Patriarchy demands that so many people miss out on beautiful lives in order to protect its central lie, and no matter how tender and how exquisite, a lie will remain a lie. Canto 4. You can change your destiny through time. You can change your future through darkness. We can share the happiness we've been looking for. Every single YouTube video I make is a love letter, but this one especially. It's a love letter to Void Stranger and to lesbians, and I really do believe that love is the most powerful force in the universe, and the one that will redeem the world. The very last line of the Divine Comedy tells us that love is what moves the sun and the other stars in the sky. Love extends beyond even time in the end. Love proves to be the only force capable of breaking the determinism that Dis enforces over Void. It's the love that makes Sif go out in search of B, defeating Mon in the process, and opening the way for Gray and Lilith into Dis. It's Princess Lily's love that breaks the seal on the primeval fighter, and it's Gray and Lilith's love for each other, across time and timelines, that allows them to admit that they love each other and stand up to Lev. It's Ad's love for Lev that convinces them of their folly, either via dancing or video games. It's all connected. Forgive me, but I have to do what I always do here. It's Char's counterattack. Char's counterattack ends with its two protagonists, who are women if you have the same brain disease as me, realize that they love each other, and the power of that realization is enough to save the Earth from destruction. Now, how does Void Stranger end? With Gray and Lilith and Princess Lily admitting they all love each other, and stopping the Void Comet from striking the Earth. Love is a more powerful force than gravity, and it will save us. Now, I know that in the comments you're charging up your defeating fascism with the power of love versus defeating fascism with the power of overwhelming violence posts, and you're right to do so, but let me cook. I am a lesbian because I love women. I am a feminist because I love women, and recognize that patriarchy causes so many women to live half-lives without ever reaching their potential and being truly happy. I am a communist because I recognize that patriarchy and capitalism are hand in glove. Capitalism is bad for women, and so it must die. I'm an environmentalist because the Earth is a woman, our mother. Patriarchy is the oldest hierarchy there is, but it is a less powerful force than love. Let this love be incandescent, a conflagration to burn down the old world in favor of one where women may be free. Video games are for women.